This is the Soul Expansion Soundboard, an hour of honest conversations and straightforward advice on spiritual growth, limitless creation, and enlightened evolution, with two certified spiritual coaches and soulpreneurs who understand what it's like to navigate spiritual growth in an ever-changing world. You'll be part of illuminating discussions featuring spirituality, self-development, inner healing, manifesting, and expansive creation of the abundant life you truly deserve. Now, here are your hosts, Roz Kincaid and Julian Crosson-Hill.
Hello. I'm Julian Crosson-Hill, spiritual life coach and human design specialist, and the owner of Priest of an Honest Spiritual Life Coaching. And with me is Roz Kincaid.
Hey, everybody. It's Roz Kincaid. I'm a spiritual life coach, empowerment transformation coach, snatcher of edges, truth teller, storyteller, all that stuff. And I'm the founder and owner of Soul Healing with Roz in Manassas, Virginia.
I love that snatcher of edges part.
Yes,
That's
because you
great.
know how I get, Julian. I get fired up and people get clutching the pearls and all of this kind of stuff. And you know me.
Yeah, it's one of the things we love about you, Roz. So today we want to talk about the ways that you create limitations for yourself. And so in my experience working with my clients, often the reason that they're not moving forward or they're not doing the thing that they want to do is that they are experiencing some kind of a limitation. And when we really dig into it, a lot of times these limitations are self-created. They're not fake, they're not, imaginary, but they're definitely there, and they're there because we've created them for ourselves in some way. So Roz and I are going to talk today about all the ways that we create these limitations and sort of explore that. And hopefully, it'll sort of shed some light on some of your own limitations and maybe the ways that you've created them for yourselves. So, Roz, what's coming up for you?
Man, you know what? What you said in the beginning kind of just tripped something for me, and it's what you said about like all of these things that we've been led to believe and been told that we've bought into, and it kind of brought my memory back to just last night having a conversation with one of the moms at gymnastics class for my daughter, and I was sitting there and I've been updating my application form for my private coaching, and I just came across one of the questions on that form, and it asks what assumptions, beliefs, uh, uh, um, narratives, stories, and truths have you bought into that you have accepted as truth that are holding you back? And I think that that goes back to our, and I'm going to use some different words, grooming, our training, because think about it, like your parents, your mom or your dad, or if you were in a one parent home, or if you were raised in a household of grandparents or adults, or whoever were your caretakers, there is where you start to shape and form beliefs and narratives and stories that you don't like at the age you are 5, 6, 3, 0. You don't know anything, and all you know is what you've been taught. And there comes a time in life where something starts to feel disconnected and untrue for you, even though you've been living your life according to these narratives and these stories, and you don't believe them anymore, but you don't necessarily know how to change them either, and you realize that they've been limiting you. And so I think that is helpful to really go back to the beginning of where did this even come from. Like if you are feeling limited, go back to where it started. Who told you this? Whose story is this? Whose narrative is this? And I think that that's one of the major ways that we can continue to hold ourselves back, is not um becoming aware, or even looking for the wisdom as to where does this, I feel limited, what is this, and where does this come from? Because you can kind of like do the work on the surface, you know what I'm saying, and get an understanding of this is limiting me and this is how it's limiting me. But if you don't if you don't pull back the rug or till the soil and pull the root up out of the ground or dig it up, the weed is gonna keep growing, the lie is gonna keep growing, it's gonna keep looking like the truth and feeling like a lie.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's so true. So what's coming up for me, and I just recorded a podcast on this that'll drop not next week, but the week after, is a lot of times the things that are limiting us are our expectations. We have a destination in mind, and sometimes we look at life's journey as getting to a destination and then we're done, right? And life doesn't work that way. It's constantly unfolding. This is a continuous journey, and we don't have a final destination. Even when we kick it, that's not our final destination, because then we're starting a new journey on the other side. And so we attach a lot of expectation around, if I do A plus B, it's going to equal C. And when it doesn't, we feel a lot of frustration. We feel a lot of limitation. So I like to sort of tell a story around this and compare it to your road trip. So when I was growing up, my family took road trips a lot. And we would be planning a road trip for summer vacation, and usually we were road tripping to my mother's parents' house, to back in the Midwest. And my mom would always say things like, "Oh, this is going to be different this year. We're going to take it leisurely. We're going to stop a lot. We're going to stop at the hotel by dinner time, and you kids can swim in the hotel pool, and it's going to be great." And then my father would get behind the wheel of the car, and he'd be like, "We're making it to the halfway mark by dinner time, and then we're going to keep going." Like, that destination became such a focus, and there was such an expectation of getting there, that he turned into the freaking road warrior and would drive like 12 hours straight. Now, as an adult, I enjoy road trips. I like to take them. Part of it is I hate to fly. I just think it's a miserable experience. But also, I just really enjoy being able to see more than you do when you fly over things. So my husband and I take road trips. And when I'm driving in a road trip, I'm like, "Ooh, that's marked scenic route. I know it's going to take longer, but let's go see where that goes and see what's down there." Or I see a little mom and pop like shop advertised or something, and I'm like, "Oh, they might have something really cool. Let's stop." I mean, my husband and I on road trips have stopped to see the world's largest wind chime, the world's largest rocking chair. Like, we stop for that corny stuff. And the reason I'm telling you this story is, if you can let go of the idea of this is a destination and I have to get to it, and an expectation of this is how I'm going to get to it, this is the route I'm going to take, right? I'm going to get on the highway and I'm going to drive straight through. If you can let go of a lot of that and take it more as, this is an adventure I'm going to go on, and I'm going to explore, and I'm going to try some stuff and see what happens. And it might be what I expect, it might not be what I expect, and it might be better than what I expected. If you can adopt that kind of attitude, if you can look at your life as a road trip and allow it to be more of an adventure for you, I think you will find a lot less limitation. And I want to clarify, that doesn't mean you don't set goals, because I think goals are still important. But it's really when we get into that expectation that we have a certain place that we're going, this is the only way we get there, and we're in a hurry to get it and get there, and we don't stay rooted in the moment and enjoy the journey, that we really set ourselves up to feel very limited.
Hmm. That whole, what Julian is talking about, some of you have heard as being attached or not being detached to the outcome. And yes, I would agree with you. I've seen it in many of my clients and in myself. Like even right now. I'm going through it right now. I'm very attached to it, needs to look like A, B, and C. And I know for me, like I know I'm getting familiar with parts of my human design chart, and I know all my arrows at the top point left. That makes me quad left, and that makes me a very specific manifester. And what I find is that when I am trying to create something in my life or draw something more into my life, I tend to get a little bit too specific to the point where it's got to be done this way, that way, and it needs to look like this color in this shape. And while that kind of can help you with manifesting and kind of like sending up prayers to what you want, it also can hurt you in that you are way too attached to what it is that you want, so much so that you gotta it becomes controlling. It becomes controlling, and you don't want to control how things happen, because quite honestly, on a soul level and on a spiritual level, you've already planned that out. And yes, there's opportunity for you to rework the plan or go in a different direction, but you lose I feel like you lose a lot of the trust and the assuredness and the feeling of support when you don't back away from a lot of the how, and you don't like disconnect from, well, it has to be this way or it has to look that way. Like, why does it have to look that way? Are you feeling like that you can't trust um the God that you believe in and serve, or goddess that you believe in and serve, that they won't take care of you? Because that's a whole other issue that we need to talk about on the side, right? And so getting being specific but not too specific is going to benefit you, because it allows you to be more open and to receive something better. Like, let it be Christmas. Like, let it be your birthday. Like, oh, I want this, but then you open it up and it's like, ta-da, this is even better. I can do more with this. But when you are so locked into it being a specific way and you receiving it of a specific way and in a specific time, which does not really exist, right? Then you lock yourself away from a lot of other opportunities that could be coming your way.
Yeah. Yeah, you said two of my favorite things in all of that, Roz. You said trust and you said human design. And so I think the number one reason that we, or the number one way that we create limitations for ourselves, is that we don't trust ourselves. And in human design, we talk a lot about deconditioning, letting go of all the social expectations, all the shoulds and the needs tos, and all of that junk that kind of gets in our way of really living our life true to ourselves in an authentic way. And the biggest part of that is trust. Do we trust ourselves? Do we trust that we know what is right for us? And the way that we create these limitations is, and I've done it in my business. I start thinking about, I want to create this program, or I want to try this marketing technique, or I want to do this. And the first thing I do is I go ask a bunch of other people, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? Because I'm not trusting myself in my own urge to create this, in my own response to life as a manifesting generator. And I'm creating that limitation because I'm looking for someone to validate me or validate my ideas, instead of simply trusting them and leaning into that trust. And trust is a muscle. We have to build it and we have to exercise it. So start trusting yourself with small stuff, and then start trusting yourself in the bigger stuff. And just, you have to practice it. And when you trust yourself and it doesn't work out the way you expected, you've got to let go of blame, because we get into blame when it doesn't go the way we planned, and we start blaming other people, we start blaming the situation, we start blaming ourselves, and it pulls us out of our power. It pulls us out of the sweet spot when we have a mindset that we're moving forward and we're taking this as an adventure, and we're curious about what might happen if we do X or Y. And when we get pulled out of that by blame, then we start to focus on all the things that aren't working. And this becomes a strong mindset issue. Roz mentioned at the beginning all the programming that we get from our family and our parents, and all the beliefs and thoughts and the narratives that we play over. But there's also this tendency, and I think it's a human tendency overall, to focus on the negative. Like, we notice what we don't have. We notice what isn't working. We notice what is making us unhappy. But how powerful would it be if you could shift your focus and instead spend your time taking an inventory of all the things that are going right? what would that do to your mindset? And how would you perceive the limitations that you're experiencing if instead of focusing on what you don't have or what's not working, you focused on what you do have and what is working? And in doing that, it's going to shift your mindset and it's going to shift your expectations in a really powerful way.
Yeah, definitely. And I agree with you, and I wrote a couple things down. But what I want to say is to drive your point home about focusing on the positive. I'll give you an example of this. And I know we've been talking about money for the past few weeks, so it's an easy example for people to relate to. So, um, I think it might have either been in our abundantly being material or a later episode of the soundboard. I mentioned that when manifesting money, for example, if you were to start to practice focusing on more of what's coming in, like I'm getting paid this day, I got this money coming in, this is coming in, we've got that paid. If you focus more on what's coming in, then that kind of takes you out of that scarcity mindset. And scarcity isn't just about money, right? It's really about FOMO too, right? Fear of missing out, or you not living out your fullest potential, or getting your goals met, or whatever the case may be. But if you apply that um to your life as a whole and focus more on, and I'm not talking about being Pollyanna, and I'm not talking about having rose colored glasses on, but focus on what you know is coming in and what you know you have around you. Because I did this. I started to focus on, okay, this money's coming from here, that money's coming from there. And I looked up, y'all, I had a check come in the mail that I didn't even know what was coming. I looked in the bank account. I got money from the government. I didn't even know it was coming. Like, so this shit works. We're not just sitting up here like blowing smoke and telling you, recommending that you do things that haven't worked for us, or that we haven't experimented and tried ourselves. But I've tried to start getting into the practice of look around, look at what you have, be in a place of an energy of expectation. Because when you expect things to happen, they happen. When you expect things to happen, the universe and God throws that out to you for you to receive, because you are in a receiving position. Now, the other thing that I wanted to mention is that one of the other things that can limit us is overdoing and doing too much. This can, fall into people pleasing. This can fall into codependency. And even that is some kind of form of trying to control so that you don't feel a loss, or you don't feel some type of abandonment. And so you take on all of these things, and you start to pretty much bind your hands so that you can't do anything else, because you too focused on doing something for somebody else, because you were scared of what they're gonna think, or what they're gonna say about you, or you feel like you are a lot of people are dependent on you. Like, you created this experience for yourself, like all these people depend on me. Grown adults, I'm talking about. I ain't talking about kids. I'm talking about grown able adults that can go get jobs and go find resources on their own. And you're stepping in and you're doing all the things for them, or you feel like you need to do all the things for them, but you're not leaving space and room to do the things for yourself, to create space and peace and joy and rest and relaxation and restoration for yourself. So this whole I, I've been really in this lesson myself. Like, I'm doing too much. I'm forcing it. I'm trying to push it too hard. I'm trying to force it to happen. And all of this striving and doing and achieving and overachieving is only limiting me, because I keep getting that back. More shit to do, more things to strive for. And I can't move on and do the things that I want to do, or experience the ease that I want to. Because a lot of times, in order to have those things, you got to become those things. And I know we talk a lot about embodiment, but really what that is that, and I'm gonna use this phrase, but I want y'all to hear me when I say it. Sometimes you got to fake it to make it. And what I mean by faking it to make it is like acting like you got it before you tangibly get it in your orbit, in your hands, physically in your hands. You need to act like you got it before you get it. And if you want to call that faking it to make it, then call it that. But I know that kind of has a negative connotation, but I know people relate to that. And a lot of times we don't embody, we don't start to behave or think in the way that our next self is already thinking. Well, truth be told, we don't take the time. And I've been guilty of it too. We don't take the time to really connect with that other being, that higher being, because they got all the answers. They're already over there. The version of you that you're trying to be is already in existence. You need to learn how to connect with that version of you, either in a meditation, in your imagination. You get creative some kind of way and start to find out what the answers are, or connect with somebody who can help you connect on a higher plane to understand what is the next right step. Because sometimes you don't know what to do, and the next thing to do is to do the next right thing as soon as you can think of it, as soon as it drops down in your spirit. I know I said a lot. Julian, what has come up for you?
So, as a manifesting generator, I don't really relate to the having too much to do.
Mm.
But I do relate to the tendency to not be present.
Hmm.
And I think that this is really a problem for a lot of us, is that we're not present in the moment. And when we're not being present, we're not really allowing ourselves to hear our intuition. We're not really listening
Yeah.
to our heart, because our mind is going, 300 miles an hour with all the things that we need to do. And so, what I mean by being present is, it's sort of like meditation and mindfulness, but it's also kind of this idea of what Roz was talking about embodiment. So when we're eating and we're also doing other things while we're eating, we're watching TV, we're working through lunch and eating at our desk, whatever it is, we're not really being mindful of the food that we're eating. We're not paying attention to the experience of eating. We're not listening to our body tell us we're full, which is why so many of us are too heavy. Um, and so we lose that connection because we're too cluttered with stuff. We're too going in too many different directions. And so being mindful is really about two things for me, and they both relate to why we're experiencing limitations. So first is, when we're not being mindful, we're not aware of what's going through our head. We're not aware of the narrative. And that's when we start focusing on all the stuff we don't have, all the things that are going wrong, how stressed we feel, how busy we are. We focus on these things, and this narrative is playing in our head, and we're not even aware that it's happening. And this is important because I've been reading Dana Wild's book, Train Your Brain, and participating in her Positive Mindset Entrepreneurs Monthly Club. And there's a structure in our brain called the reticular activating system. And as many of you know, I spent 25 years in the software industry, and artificial intelligence is based on pattern matching. You give it a whole bunch of photos and you say, there's a rabbit in this photo, and it learns to recognize another rabbit. Well, our human brains work the same way. So what you feed your reticular activating system with, it says, hey, you're really interested in this. And so then you start noticing those things. You ever notice that when you notice like 11:11 on the clock, and you sort of pay attention to it and you stop and really notice it for a moment, you start noticing it more often? That's because your reticular activating system says this, that you're interested in that, and it starts bringing that stuff to the surface, because we take in so much stimulus in a day. There are so many things happening around us, so many things we're seeing and hearing and feeling and experiencing, that our brain filters it so that we could, because we can't be conscious of everything going on around us all at once. So our brain filters it. And when we focus on what we don't have, what's not going right, how stressed we are, how busy we are, we're telling our reticular activating system that that's what we're interested in. So our brain starts to notice more the things we don't have, the things that are going wrong, the ways that we're busy and we're stressed. But instead, when we catch ourselves in that narrative, and instead we redirect that narrative to the things that we do have, the things that are going right, the things, the ways that we have space and time to be really present, then our brain says, oh, you're really interested in this, and it starts to surface those things to your consciousness more. So the number one way that you can really break through limitation is get mindful about what that narrative is and start shifting that narrative. Start thinking more positive thoughts so that your brain, your reticular activating system, starts noticing the evidence out there that reinforces those positive thoughts that you're having. So that's like the number one thing. And one of the things that Dana says in her book, which I so agree with, is that the biggest difference between people who are successful and people who are unsuccessful is their mindset. It's not necessarily that they had more money, that they had more opportunities, that they were in the right place at the right time. It was their mindset. And with the right mindset, when you program your reticular activating system with the right ideas and the right thoughts, you will be in the right place at the right time, because when you are in the right place at the right time, your brain will let you know. And if you're not focusing on that, if you're focusing on how you're unlucky and things don't ever go right for you, your brain's going to point that out to you. So that mindset and really reprogramming that pattern matching circuit in your brain is going to be crucial to breaking through your limitations. The other aspect of being mindful is really tapping into this idea of embodiment and the heart and the intuition. And you can't do that when there's clutter, when there's noise going on. So take those moments to just be fully present. When you're eating, just eat. Pay attention to the food. How does it taste? How does it make you feel? How does it nourish you? Like, really pay attention to the experience of eating. If you're petting your cat, spend 5 minutes just petting your cat and connecting with another being on an energetic level. That kind of mindfulness, that type of presence is going to really just do tremendous for making you more aware of what is going on in your inner being and raising your awareness of the things that are going right in your life, the moments of joy and delight that are there on your journey.
Yeah, I definitely hear what you're saying. I hear you saying, listen, it's time for us to all to just slow down. You might not be able to pause, but we gotta slow down. We gotta slow down. We can't. It's not benefiting us. It's not serving us well to be going 50,000 miles an hour and having multiple things go on, unless you are like for real designed and made for that. A lot of population ain't. But we are being called or invited to slow down. Like COVID, COVID, slow down, stop, regroup. It's almost like the world was put on pause, or like we all had to throttle back and throttle down and just pause for a minute, and so that we can notice. We don't notice. We don't like. I agree. Is all I'm saying is that we don't take the time to slow down and pay attention and notice and it's not until it starts to hurt and feel uncomfortable that oh, something is sticking me in my side, something is hurting me, something is feeling uncomfortable. And this now is the time for us to start to practice getting in front of those things and paying attention to those things. And you made a really good point about asking other people what you should do, asking other people their opinion, and not leaning into what the inner voice is saying. I'm not talking about, yes, the critic is going to be talking and saying things, but at the same time, there is a non-critical, loving voice on the inside of you that's speaking as well. And the more you pay attention to that, the more you remove the distractions, you will hear it more clearly, and it'll be louder. Um, but you gotta get familiar with what that voice is, and understand how it speaks, and its dynamic with you and how it shows up for you specifically. And so not being able or not taking the time to explore your own intuition, like, okay, listen, I'm gonna say this, but you do not always need a psychic, and I am a psychic. Right? I do readings, and people that come to me, I tell them, You don't need me. You do not need me to tell you this because you already know this. And if we could just stop and slow down for a bit and pay attention and just take a chance. Take a chance on what you're feeling on the inside, and take a chance on what you're seeing on the outside that is synchronous and keep showing up. And stop letting your go-to, I got to book a reading with this person, or I need to throw down my tarot cards. Like, before even all of that even existed, it, like, none of that existed, and you were still relying on your connection and your inner voice and the power that is within you to help lead and guide you. Like, I don't have anything against psychic tools. Like, I got them over here in my little cabinet right now, and I pull them out every now and then, and they only confirm what I was feeling in my gut already. And that's what's going to happen, going to start to happen when you start to seek out um spiritual professionals. They're gonna confirm for you what you already know, because it happens to me when I go to a psychic. She tells me all the time, you need me. You do not need me to sit here and tell you this. We have to learn how to get into our intuition and our inner guidance, and start to get familiar with it, and start to trust that more, to build that trust. That's how you build trust. Just like if you dating somebody, like, you don't go out on one date with a person and think you know them, or trust them. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't be so naive to believe that you spend 5 minutes one day or for a week every day that, oh, my intuition is popping right now. It takes much more than that. It takes devotion. And that is what I also think limits us, is that we don't stay devoted to our own inner being. We don't stay devoted to our own inner voice, and we start to not trust and believe our own inner compass. And we got to go and rely on somebody else's inner compass, because when you go ask somebody, what do you think I should do, they are going to respond to you from their own personal perspective. They're going to respond to you from, what would I do if I were you? And it's not you. So we got to learn how to think for ourselves, trust ourselves, because we do know the answer. It's been poking and nudging you this whole time. And take a chance. Take Like, you're gonna have to take a risk, a calculated risk, on trusting the signs and symbols and the thoughts that drop down on you, or the feelings in your body. That's the other thing too. Body. We're not listening to our bodies. I recently recorded a podcast that's going to be coming out next month about somatics, and how there's wisdom in somatic healing, and it can inform you of what trauma needs to be healed, and it can inform you of what path to take. And I think that, again, this is related to the doing and going and going and going so much, and not slowing down and listening, that we miss what's going on in our bodies. We miss aches and pains that have manifested from unprocessed emotions, or being stagnant, or energy just being in our body and not moving around. And our body has its own mind. It has its own intelligence. And I have come to believe that the wisdom that you get from your body is much more intelligent than what's than what's logically up here and processing up here, right? Like, they go hand in hand. But listening to your body, and when something is contracted or doesn't feel good, pay attention to that. When something feels expansive and exciting, pay attention to that. What is that about? Like, we need to get into what some people will call weird things, and start to have conversation with ourselves. Like, it's not crazy anymore to have conversations with yourself, because when you do, you will start to notice some of the thoughts and recurring beliefs and limiting beliefs that you keep telling yourself on repeat, that you can start to change. Like, that stuff is in your subconscious mind as well. Like it's running in the background. And it'll pop up, and it will be on autopilot if you don't catch it, if you don't interrupt that pattern. And that's what Julian is talking about, like pausing, slowing down, and starting to interrupt the pattern to create a pattern that's going to serve you better. I'm mighty long-winded today. I think there's a lot to from like I feel like I'm talking to me on the outside of me, but I know people. I feel like people can relate to this too. So this is a good one. I'm glad we picked this one.
I think we're both long-winded today because I feel like I am too. So, yeah. So, yeah. So much came up for me in that. And first of all, I want to hit on that devotion because I think devotion is really important. And one of the main reasons that we feel so limited in our lives is that we aren't really devoted to things, and in particular to our values and to the causes we believe in. As soon as something becomes hard, so many of us give up. Like we give up just before the big breakthrough. This happens all the time. I see clients who are working and working and they're working towards something, and then it gets a little hard and they just quit. And they were so close to the big breakthrough and they just let it go. They just released it. And so being devoted to the things that you really believe in, the things that you really strongly feel are right for you, is going to be really an important part of breaking through those limitations. And they're a way that we create limitations when we prematurely quit. So, the other thing I want to sort of talk about a little bit is Roz mentioned interrupting those narratives. You catch yourselves in those negative thoughts and you interrupt them. And I hear this, I get asked this a lot. So I'm trying to manifest something and I find myself thinking this negative thing. What do I do? How do I cancel that thought? Right. So let me tell you, the most powerful word for adjusting your mindset when you catch yourself in a negative thought is the word but. Because think about it, when you say something and then you say but, the but kind of cancels everything that came before. So when you find yourself thinking, we've talked about money a lot in the past couple of weeks, so let's talk about money. Find yourself thinking, I don't have enough money, then add on to that, but more is on the way. Cancel it out and give it a more positive spin. I can't do this, but I'm getting better at it. I feel limited, but I'm going to make that breakthrough. Try that out when you find yourself in those negative thoughts, and you will find that that will start to change your mindset when you do that, because doing that sort of cancels all of the negative stuff that came first and then kind of moves you forward with a more positive part. So really dig into that and try that out, because I think you'll find that that's a really powerful technique for
Mhm.
sort of reprogramming your thoughts. And I had another thought, but I've lost it somewhere. So what you got, Ross?
Uh, Definitely. And one more thing to add to what you were saying about the putting in the but is that it's faith building too.
Yeah.
Like it's low key building your faith. You are acknowledging what's happening, but you're also acknowledging that it can be better. And all you need is that's the mustard seed of faith that you need to start creating a ripple effect of change. So that's a great place to start. The other thing, there we go. There, the other thing that I was going to mention that limits us is living in the past.
Mm, yeah.
Living in the past and or recreating the past. Um, Especially if you um don't believe it can be better. Like they kind of go, they're interchangeable. I don't think it can be better because it hasn't been better. I don't think it can be different because it hasn't been different. Like it's been this way for so long that it can't be better. Well, what you're actually doing when you perpetuate those statements and those beliefs is that you are pulling past energy or the past experiences into your present and reliving that and making that like a part of your present, but you're also creating seed for that to happen in your future as well. And it kind of goes along with what you said about the but statements. um this happened to me before, but I know it can be different. Even using that small
Yeah.
technique can really turn things around for you, but we have to stop living in the past or assigning past experiences to the present and creating future experiences based on the past. Got to get out of the past. You can't live in the past. You're only holding yourself back. You're caging yourself and just watching life happen instead of you being a part of it. When you kind of just live in the past. And I get that some people, we have trauma. And I understand that that is triggered and it comes up, but you can let that pass. You can work to let that pass like a cloud in the sky, honey. Like you don't have to let that rain on your parade or block your sunshine or block the light. You can acknowledge that it happened. You don't have to relive that. You don't have to place that back into your life right now. It happened. It's not happening right now. And it doesn't have to happen down the road. Something different can exist because it does exist. So let go of that past, acknowledge it, let it go, and set yourself up to experience something different, something new that you haven't experienced before. You remember your thought?
I do actually.
Hmm.
So my other thought is knowing things. And I want you to think about knowing a little differently, because we think about knowing as like this concrete thing, that we know something and that's all there is. Like it becomes some sort of like concrete truth once we know it. And knowing is more of a process. It's a process of allowing truth for you to unfold day by day. And when you take that approach to knowing, it sort of shifts the way you look at things. Because one of the things I see is I see clients get limited by what they know about reality and that things aren't possible, right? And I want to kind of talk about a little experience that I had that really illustrated this for me. So some of you have watched the past soundboards. Roz and I talked about money and scarcity, and we talked about the energy behind money and how money is energy, and there's an even energy exchange when we do work, when we create. And so I had a clip from that out on my social media, and somebody came and trolled my social media to tell me how wrong I was, that they had a master's in economics and that's not how capitalism works. And, blah, 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 blah. Right. They knew that late stage capitalism is the way everything works and that that's the way it has to be. Right. And so when we decide that systems that were created by humankind are all there is, and that we have to live within the system the way it is, we allow that to limit ourselves. And I'm I'm going to just say, my message is a message about change. And if you believe that that's the way it is and that you have no power to change it, and that we just need to, late stage capitalism is the peak of how we should manage our resources and spend our time and put our creative energy towards, then my message isn't for you, because I'm here for the change makers. And I just want to tell you, if you're feeling limited by the systems that are in place, then get in there and change that system. Find a different way to do things. Think about how you're consuming. Think about how you're making your money. Think about how you approach work, because you can choose something different. And so the number one thing that I think limits people is when they believe that they have no choice or that they can't choose something differently.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, Roz was speechless. Put that on the
Mm-hmm.
calendar.
Y'all mark this day. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nothing changes until something changes. And change starts with you.
Yeah.
Hey, I can't even add nothing to that. That's a word. Let the church say amen. Yeah. You know what's coming up? I feel like all roads lead back to fear.
Mm,
All roads of limitation lead back to fear. And I'm scared because I don't know. I'm scared because what if? I'm afraid because the unknown is out there. I'm afraid because I've been in this nice little perfect comfort zone. And if I get out of here, I don't know what's going to happen to me. I'm afraid. I really do believe that limitation leads back to a level of fear. And it's okay. Let me say that it's okay to be afraid. It's okay to be afraid, but what's not okay is that it paralyzes you. It's not okay that it keeps you chained up and blocked and not exploring life the way that you want to, whether it's the fear of somebody criticizing you, or the fear that you're going to fail, or even the fear that you're going to succeed and you don't know how you're going to handle that success, or you feel like you don't have the resources to handle a certain amount of success. All roads lead back to fear. And honestly, um fear, of course, is there to protect us. But if we could repurpose the fear, I wonder what would happen. I wonder if we could hear the fear out, take the wisdom from the fear, speak to it from a higher level. Like, stop speaking to fear. Number one, like, stop responding to fear. Like, you can engage with it a bit and understand what is going on and what that is about, but you don't. You have to come up and come a step up, a level up, and speak to the you that's not fearful. Speak to the you that is confident, because they're there. They're there because the fear is in front of it, protecting it. Like, that's what's happening. And so we can feel the fear, we can feel the trembling and the shaking and the sweaty palms and the dry mouth and all of that stuff. I do it every time I turn this camera on. I swear I do. It might not look like it, but it it happens. But when you move forward and do it anyway, then go surprise yourself. You will be surprised at what happens to you and what happens for you and what you're creating and putting out there that comes back to you. So we got to stop letting fear paralyze us and locking our feet into the sand, in order for us to move forward. And maybe you might not want to move. Maybe you think your life is all right, and that's just fine. This message ain't for you. And that's okay. But for those people who can resonate with that, and you scared, you know that there's something out there that scares you half to death. Like, when you live in that fear, you're actually manifesting whatever scenario you're afraid of happening. It's gonna happen because you're focused on it. You're not breaking the pattern.
Yeah, this is kind of a radical concept, but something that came out of my work in the Akashic Records was that fear is simply the lack of trust.
Hmm.
And I think that's really powerful if you think about that for a minute. Like, why are you afraid? Well, because you don't trust yourself, because you don't trust someone else, because you don't trust the system. It all boils down to a lack of trust. And so finding that's, we talked about sufficiency a lot in talking about money and scarcity, and tapping into that enoughness, your own enoughness. And when you trust your enoughness, there's not fear. And so, really, it all comes back to, can I trust in my own enoughness? Can I feel that I'm enough? And can I trust in it? So, one other thing that came up for me while you were talking, Roz, that's totally unrelated to what you were saying, but I think the number one reason that people are stuck in limitation and why they're so limited and why they're not moving forward is they're spending their time around other stuck ass people, and people who like to be stuck, who want to complain about being stuck, who want to notice everything that's wrong in their life and everything they don't have. And they're so negative, they're so emotionally, they're depressed, they're sad, they're angry, they're just stuck, and they like being stuck. And when you surround yourself with those people, it affects your own mindset. It makes you feel more stuck. It makes you feel that being stuck is okay for you, and it makes you feel like there's no other option but being stuck. And so, get around some people who are positive, get around some people who are breaking through those limitations, spend your time around those people, spend your time with people who are happy, spend your time with people who find delight in little surprises and the little things that happen in life. Spend your time with those people, and you will find that it has a huge effect on yourself and on getting over those limitations. Go find yourself a cheer squad. Seriously, go find people who are going to be your cheerleaders, who are going to support you. They're going to say, you got this, you can do this. Find those people, because those people are really going to just do a tremendous amount for you. And really, when you have that sort of support section, that cheering section, you're going to start to trust yourself more, and you're going to trust in your sufficiency and your own ability to be enough way more than you are when you hang out with people who are just wallowing in how stuck they are.
Listen, you cannot live your life in a barrel full of crabs and expect to swim like a whale or a dolphin. If that lands for you, get away. Listen, I'm gonna repeat what you said, but I'm gonna give it to you a little bit more direct. Quit hanging around people who are naysayers, all negative, don't like to do nothing but sit up and talk shit about people, because what you think they're gonna do to you as soon as you leave, or as soon as you do something that they don't like, they're gonna do the same thing to you. You have got to get yourself away from the negative Nancy's. And I actually have a friend named Nancy, and she is not negative. Okay, she is a great person. So, but get away from people who ain't got shit going on. You you need to get yourself around people. Listen, get yourself around people who you think are doing better than you. Okay? Because birds of a feather flock together, and iron sharpens iron. Seriously, get away from these people who are a drag and make you feel bad about yourself, or perpetuate this negative view of the world. Because everything, listen, every place in the world ain't ghetto. Okay, every place ain't doing bad, right? Everything in your life ain't sucking. And if you continue to hang around people and commune with people and put your feet under the table of people who are serving up trash, and you keep eating it, then guess what's gonna happen? Guess what you're gonna see in your life? More shit, more trash, more poison. Unsubscribe to that stuff. You have got to unsubscribe to that stuff and get around people who are positive. With all of this technology out here, you got Facebook, you got TikTok, you got people offering memberships, people doing women's circle, support for the LGBTQ community, support for BIPOC people, all of these different communities. I surely to God, you can find something that's more positive than the people that you hanging around, that's pulling you down and talking trash and spewing negativity all the time. All the time. Misery loves company. What kind of company do you want to be in?
Yeah, that's so important. And you mentioned Facebook and social media, so I just want to add in there, if scrolling your social media makes you feel like you're not enough or makes you feel bad about yourself, then unfollow that shit, because social media can really be detrimental to your growth and to your progress. And if you're looking at it and thinking about, this person has such a great life and I don't, or it makes you feel less than, then get off of that. Go follow other accounts. Go find something different to look at. Go find something different to read. I don't Stop scrolling. Go read a book. Go for a walk outside. Do something. But social media can really be toxic if we allow it to be. And so we have to be very selective about how we utilize social media, how we relate to social media, who we're following, what we're watching. We've really got to be aware of that. And if social media makes us feel small, or makes us feel more limited, or that we don't have what we want, or we are less than, or we're not enough, then get rid of it.
I agree with that to a degree. I do. I agree with that to a degree. If that is sage advice, that's sage wisdom. But what I would also challenge people to do is that if you are feeling like that, if something on social media is bringing that up for you, ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? What is this about? What is this bringing up for me? And what is still hurting and unhealed in me, that is causing me to default to, I'm not valuable, or I'm not good enough in comparison to this other person. So before well, as you hopping off and as you unsubscribing, because I agree with that too, that's a great strategy to do. Get that out of your orbit, but don't stop there with the unsubscribing or the unfollowing or the muting people, but dig into that, figure out what that is, because if you don't, it's gonna come up some other kind of way. You're gonna watch some kind of program on TV, and that whole unworthiness, or I don't feel valued, uh, energy is gonna come up. Don't just leave that there. Just don't unsubscribe or unfollow somebody, but have a conversation with yourself and understand, why is that setting me off? Why does that making me feel like I'm not good enough? Like, I unsubscribed a bunch of people on my business page because I didn't like the fact that they kept uh telling me how much money they were making by in like 3 weeks, or what, in some kind of, unrealistic time frame. And that made me feel a kind of way, because I don't feel good in what I'm doing, or I didn't feel good in what I'm doing, and I needed to change some stuff to make, not just make me feel good, but to make me feel like I was being impactful with the work that I was doing and the places that I was showing up. So before stage left on people or kick them out of your orbit, check in. Check in and see what that's about. Because 9 times out of 10, it's calling for a change, it's calling for a shift, it's calling for some kind of awareness to be had about why you're feeling the way you're feeling, because that just doesn't come from nowhere. There's a root to that that's going to
Yeah.
limit you, since we're talking about it.
Yeah. So just sort of parting thought on that is same thing with marketing messages, particularly politicians. There's a lot of
Mhm.
politics division and blaming other people for why you don't have something, right? We see this all the time. Immigrants are taking the jobs, or some people got student loan forgiveness, but I got to pay my bills. There's a lot of this like grievance politics. And so if that resonates with you, if you're thinking of voting for someone and that's the kind of advertising that they're doing, the kind of message they're putting out there, ask yourself, why is this working with me? Why do I feel like what's going on in my life is someone else's fault? Because I'll tell you, if there's something going on in your life that isn't working for you, responsibility is with you. All right. So, Roz, how can people get in touch with you?
Ooh, child, you left me speechless again on that one. I kind of lost my train of thought. Like, well, damn, I need to check myself. Like, yeah, what's up with you? Like, all roads lead back to you. But anyway, not to get back off topic. So, what I have for you is my empowerment private coaching program. I've made a few changes to this program. Um, I've kind of felt like people are needing like this touch in, this one-off session, as opposed to jumping into a longer commitment. So I've opened up a few more options in my private coaching program. This is where not only, Julian, you were talking about having a cheerleader in your corner, but not only in this program do you have a cheerleader in me, but you also have somebody who's going to shine a light on the places that you don't want to look at, that you need to look at in order to move forward. So if you are interested in working with me one-on-one, check out my empowerment private coaching program. I have a power hour single session available and a 1, 3, and 6 month commitment available for you. So check that out. I'd love to work with you. I have space available, and I'm only taking 4 people. So if you're feeling the pull, go to my website, www.rozkincaid.com, and apply.
Cool. Awesome. So, like Roz, I also have coaching available. So you can check out my coaching. I do mine a little differently as well. I don't have set number of months that you have to work with me or set number of programs. It's going to be customized to what your needs are. So when you work with me, you're going to get that support and that cheerleader in your corner. You're also going to get a lot of clarity, a lot of techniques to really like dive in and get into things and really understand what's going on with why you're feeling limited and how you can break through that. All of my coaching is based on a monthly price plan, and there's a range of prices depending on basically how often we work together. Is it every other week or is it weekly? So it's all going to be customized to you. And I'm also available on Voxer outside of our sessions, pretty much anytime that you need additional support. You can send me a voice message on the Voxer app and I'll respond. So you can check that out on my website, which is www.priestofrinana.com. And I do offer a free clarity call. So if you're just not sure if you need to dig into your human design and understand conditioning, or you feel limited, but you're not real sure what the limitation is or how you want to shift in it, you can schedule a free clarity call. We'll sit down, we'll talk, talk about what your needs are, what coaching could do for you, maybe what human design could do for you, and get you matched to the right help that you need.
Awesome. Thanks, Julian. That's going to be helpful for somebody. Y'all make sure y'all jump on those offerings. So you guys, that's all we have for you today. We're going to be coming back on October 21st, Friday, October 21st at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we're going to continue this conversation around limitations and talk about ways that you can overcome the limitations that we create for ourselves. So make sure you tune in on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube for our next live on October 21st. And we'll see y'all next time.
Bye.
Bye.
This has been the Soul Expansion Soundboard. Join us live every other Friday.